Hi, Ian. Yeah, thanks a lot for the invitation to be part of this session. Yeah, today I brought some slides and I'm gonna do a live demo of like how is it to interact with Moonbeam. We're not gonna go through like Moonbeam in the code base and everything, but how is it as a user? How do you use Moonbeam? And it will feel very familiar, right? And so basically the title of the presentation it's Moonbeam. It's an introduction to Moonbeam, and we're an Ethereum compatible blockchain on Polkadot. Like Ian said, my name is Alberto. I am part of the developer relations team that is working on the Moonbeam project. So the agenda for today is that we're going to do a brief introduction into Moonbeam. We're going to answer mainly two questions: what is it, and why us, right? Why Moonbeam among all the options out there? Why Moonbeam? And then we were going to also talk a little bit about Moonbeam tokenomics. So mainly it's going to be collator economics, delegations, proof of stake, everything related to the tokenomics of Moonbeam, the inflation, and the staking part of our technology. So yeah, with that in mind, I guess the first question is a what, right? What is Moonbeam? What is the project about? What do we offer? What is our unique selling point or around many other options out there in the ecosystem? So Moonbeam is, like I said before, it's an Ethereum compatible smart contract parachain on Polkadot. If you remember from Daniel's presentation, Polkadot is this like hub, this like central blockchain that is often called layer zero or relay chain. And Moonbeam is one of these blockchains that connect to Polkadot. And if you think about it, Polkadot does not offer any like end user functionality to users, right? Like developers cannot really build on top of Polkadot. So they need to rely on these parallel blockchains or parachains to build dApps to provide a functionality to the ecosystem. So Moonbeam is just that. It's a parachain that provides an Ethereum compatible smart contract on Polkadot. As any other Ethereum compatible blockchain, the base layer is the EVM, right? So we have an EVM as other parachains in the ecosystem, but we also have like added layers that provides very different Ethereum compatibility features compared to other projects, right? So of course we're built with Substrate. Substrate is this sort of like tech stack that it's used to build Polkadot. Polkadot, how do you say, Polkadot compatible blockchains, right? So if you want to connect to Polkadot, the easiest way is to start with Substrate. And so what this provides us is just connect to Polkadot and uses like native interoperability features among other features. We have a full Web3 RPC support. This means that we have a seamless integration with the Ethereum JSON RPC. And you will actually see what this means in the demo that I'm going to do for you today. But what this means for developers is that they can easily use the Ethereum technology stack. If you're familiar with tools like MetaMask, Remix, Ether.js, Web3.js, so all these tools that developers know and love, they can easily use them on top of Moonbeam, which gives us a very like a good advantage to other projects because you don't have to start with a completely new technology stack from scratch. You can use already the tools that you know and love and you have used on Ethereum for many years now and directly use them on Moonbeam without any problems. We've done what we called unified accounts. And so I'm not sure if Daniel mentioned it, but Polkadot uses an account system called with SR2559 cryptography. What this means is that for us, it is a different technology account than Ethereum's, right? And so that's why when you see Polkadot's accounts, they are like a different format than Ethereum accounts. For us, this was a big friction point if we wanted to be like the most Ethereum compatible parachain on Polkadot, because Ethereum developers and Ethereum users are familiar with the Ethereum account system. So we basically merge the two account systems and we only use Ethereum accounts now. So that is why if you've ever used Moonbeam, delegated tokens on Moonbeam, you're always using like Ethereum wallets and it's always related to an Ethereum account. And this has a lot of benefits that I can mention later. And last but definitely not least, is like that we've done an amazing job from a business development perspective, from a DevRel perspective, to make sure that all the developer tools that developers need are available and they're usable with Moonbeam. And also this is true for integrations, right? And I have a slide next that is going to show you why this is important and why this is key, truly a key feature that Moonbeam offers as well. So basically, the why now, we answered the what, and now we're going to answer the why. It says because Moonbeam combines the power of Substrate with being full Ethereum compatible. right? So on one hand, like I mentioned before, we have a full EVM implementation and other features that separates us from just a basic EVM layer. But on the other side, we're built with Substrate. And this means that we're natively interoperable. We have features such as governance as well that we actually inherit from Polkadot. And we also have a proof of stake system. And we're going to talk a little bit about proof of stake later on the presentation. And so this means that Moonbeam is the easiest on-ramp to Polkadot for a multi-chain deployment. And this has been a big, like, let's say, selling feature that a lot of projects have actually seen on Moonbeam, right? If I'm a project that is already deployed to Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, right? And I want to tap into another ecosystem, I want to tap to Polkadot, I want to enter the Polkadot game, right? I can, if I go through Moonbeam, I can just use all the tech stack that I've used before, and like seriously deploying the contracts in Moonbeam is a matter of like 10 minutes if you're familiar with your tech stack, right? So it is the easiest on-ramp to Polkadot. So one of the things that I think that Ethereum has that is truly beautiful is the composability, right? So if you're not familiar with what composability is that projects might work with each other in a decentralized way, and this provides limitless combinations. What means, for example, is if you want to interact with Ethereum, you can go to do a flash loan on a project, let's say Aave, right, and use that flash loan on the same transaction on a DEX and swap some tokens, and then in the same transaction pay your loan and everything. So that is what I think is beautiful about Ethereum, is that it has so many projects that can interact with each other, providing basically limitless combinations. Another thing that has been important is the tooling. Like I said before, Ethereum has created quite a lot of tools, and that is why it's like in a totally different planet right now compared to tooling and developers in the blockchain ecosystem, right? And so for us, it was really important to make sure not only that our tech is there, but also there's some sort of like composability on Moonbeam. So that's why what I really like about this slide is that we wanted to bootstrap an interoperable ecosystem. Polkadot provides the interoperability, but then we need to provide the correct tooling for developers to build on top of. And so that is why I really like the interoperable composability, because we have had projects like SushiSwap, Moonwell, Curve Finance, Frax, like all these projects deploy to our blockchain, and actually users and developers can compose stuff with these like deployments, right? So you have a similar sort of a space that you would on Ethereum to start playing around and really like exploit everything that Ethereum offers spot on Moonbeam. And not only that, you also have the tools as a developer, you also have the tools that developers expect from a truly Ethereum chain, right? So you have indexers such as the Graph and Covalent. You have wallets such as MetaMask and many others. You have a block explorer such as Etherscan, which was a big important step for us. And we had to develop quite a lot of tooling underneath to be able to support Etherscan. We have multi-sig capabilities with a friendly Gnosis fork. All the developer tools that they use quite often, like Truffle, Hardhat, Remix, Ether.js, and we have also some oracles. Chainlink is actually pending on Moonbeam, but we do have oracles coming, and they can deploy their solutions quite easily to our blockchain. So who is building on Moonbeam? This slide, it's truly hard to keep up to date. Honestly, I think I grabbed this picture from like 3 weeks ago, and there's probably a more updated one right now. It's crazy. We have all sorts of projects from different areas. We have DeFi, dApps developers. We should add probably a new one here called gaming, because there's a lot of gaming going on Moonriver. Explorers, wallets, NFTs. It's really great to see the traction and the interaction we have received from projects that want to build on Moonbeam to tap into Polkadot. And we also have another project called Moonriver for the Kusama ecosystem. So this image is quite incredible. And this summarizes not only the work we've done on the tech side, but also the work we have done on the business development side, marketing, developer relations, because this is truly a joint effort. I brought a little bit of stats, just you get a glimpse of like what has been the performance of Moonbeam since we launched nearly 2 months ago. So we've had roughly 3.7 million transactions. We have over 212,000 wallets created. There is right now 102 million glimmers, which is a native protocol token, locked in the staking palette, basically, which this means roughly $275 million. And we have more than 1,200 ERC20 tokens that have been created to date. And this is only in the first 2 months, right? For us, it's been quite mesmerizing how the network has gotten all these stats, right, in only 2 months, for sure. So this truly is a representation of the need of this sort of like technology in the Polkadot ecosystem. So I did, like I mentioned, that Ian mentioned, I wanted to show you a little bit of a demo so you can see how what is to use Moonbeam, right? How is it? Like a lot of people actually, when they see Moonbeam as a Polkadot project, they fear to use it because they're not familiar with the Polkadot technology stack. So I hope that this demo shows you how easy it is to use Moonbeam if you're familiar with Ethereum. It is basically like using an Ethereum network. So I have MetaMask here, as you can see. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I have MetaMask here, as you can see. And if you notice on the top right corner, I'm actually connected to our testnet. So this is Moonbase Alpha, which is our testnet. But for sure, I have also Moonbeam and I also have Moonriver. So this is, you can just use MetaMask to connect to any of our Moonbeam networks, basically. If you're wondering how you can do that, you can check our documentation site, which is docs.moonbeam.network. And there's a little button here at the middle of the screen that if you click on it, it will actually configure MetaMask for you, so you can get started quite quickly, right? So we actually, as a demo of how Ethereum compatible we are, we actually deployed a Uniswap fork. This is just to show like the user base how Ethereum compatible we are. And we created a website around this. So this is called Moonbeam Swap. This is nothing official. This is just to demo our Ethereum compatibility features. And as you can see here, because I have MetaMask connected to Moonbase Alpha, you can see that the page already the text here connected to Moonbase Alpha. And this is just like a DeFi DEX, right? A DEX in DeFi. You have some tokens. Our native protocol token for the testnet is called DEV. And so I can just go ahead and do a swap as you would on any Ethereum network, any DEX on an Ethereum compatible network. And I can just confirm the swap. And you will see MetaMask popping up. My MetaMask is super zoomed in, so it's going to look a little bit weird. But you can see here that MetaMask is popping up. And as with any live demos, there's a slight delay or lag. But you can see here that I have, this is a MetaMask transaction that if I scroll down, there's some gas fees being charged, and I can just confirm this transaction. And I should be able to see this on a block explorer like you would on Ethereum. So you see here that this transaction is pending. And after this transaction gets finalized or like included in a block, we'll see this transaction being successful. And I don't know if you noticed on my MetaMask, but I already had this Jupiter tokens added here on MetaMask. So once the transaction is successful, I'm going to have quite a bit more. I do have quite a big of Jupiter tokens here, but I'm going to have a little bit extra now that I swapped on a DEX, right? So this shows you that this is basically the same experience as you would on any like Ethereum compatible chain. You can see that my transaction already went through. So I swapped 10 DEV tokens for 1.16 Jupiter tokens. And if I refresh this, you can see that this transaction was successful. And this is basically the tokens that got transferred. So like I said before, this is a very sort of like Ethereum-like experience. Even though we're a Polkadot-based blockchain, all the dApps that have been deployed until now, you will actually interact with them with your MetaMask wallet. A really cool feature is that because we've done the unified accounts thing, where you actually, like I said before, we are now using Ethereum based accounts, you can actually import here. Actually, you can connect hardware wallets and you can use Ledger, Trezor. I've not used Lattice before, or any QR-based wallets that connect to MetaMask. You can actually use them on Moonbeam. So we're actually right now the only parachain that it's like Ledger compatible or Trezor compatible. And this is only true because of our Ethereum compatibility features, right? So I'm going to go back to this demo at the latter part of the presentation because I want to show you some three other like tabs that I have open. But I'm going to go back to the presentation so we can talk a little bit more about the tokenomics and the parachain inflation and everything else. But before we do that, I wanted to show you a bit of like how do we fit the Polkadot context. And if you've ever asked why the name Moonbeam, it's because there is a song that got popularized by Frank Sinatra called Polkadots and Moonbeams, right? And you see here, there's a phrase of the song that I saw Polkadot on Moonbeam. So we thought they were like a, a really good match. So that's why like the name, where the name comes from. But the idea is that, like Daniel said, right, the Polkadot idea is that you have a central hub called Polkadot, and you have these spirit chains. And I think he showed like this picture as well, right? This is a very famous picture that Polkadot has basically used since day one. So the idea is that if you want to tap into the Polkadot ecosystem, and so any other project in the ecosystem, Moonbeam can provide basically an easy ramp up for these developers, like I said before. And so basically, that we have seen projects like Zenlink who have used Moonbeam as a hub, as a DEX hub, and then you can like get tokens from other parachains in the ecosystem listed on Zenlink. Like I said before, we provide the best of both worlds because we're powered by Substrate. So this means that like interoperable. We have governance and staking and other features that we can develop because we'll build with Substrate, but we're fully Ethereum compatible. As I mentioned before, we have Etherscan, we have the graph, we have oracles and everything. And last but not least, XEM, right? So XEM is the technology that allows this interoperability feature. And so basically, the idea is to connect to other services in the ecosystem through Moonbeam's unique Ethereum compatibility, right? So, like I said before, if you're a project that is based on Moonbeam, you will be able to access other parachains that offer different features for the ecosystem as a whole. So the Moonbeam tokenomics, so basically Glimmer, it's GLMR, I think, it's a native token of the protocol. And so basically, we target as a parachain a 5% annual inflation. This is of the total supply. And the token is used basically for gas metering, protocol security, which we're going to discuss a little bit, on-chain governance. So actually, this is really cool because, like I think Daniel mentioned, Polkadot's governance, we also have the same governance features, meaning that the token owners actually can decide the future of the network with forkless upgrades. And this is also used for network transactions. So this is not only within Moonbeam, but also for XEM features, for example. And this is really, really cool. So basically, because we want to be similar or like the same as Ethereum, our fee model is based on EIP 1559. But 80% of the fees are burned and 20% goes to the treasury. So the treasury is one feature that you can actually enable easily on Polkadot. There is like a parachain controlled treasury where like users via on-chain governance, they can decide how to spend those funds. If they want to fund grants, if they want to fund any project in particular, and so on. Well, I said that the token is inflationary, but it really depends on engagement, like EIP 1559, right? So this could mean that in the future, Moonbeam can be a deflationary token, but it just really depends on the engagement and how many tokens are burned, part of this 80%, compared to the new supply that is being created. And part of the tokenomics as well is considering that we are a delegated proof of stake network, and this is key for protocol security, right? And so why is staking? Why did we go through a proof of stake network? And the answer is called Nimbus. So Nimbus is part of our parachain consensus. So the consensus that we've like created internally as a parachain. And so basically Nimbus allows us to go from to say who is going to be the collator of the block producer. When I say the term collator, it's the same as block producer or miner on Ethereum, even though this is a proof of stake network. Right, so Nimbus allows us to go from a pool of candidates collators, so people that are like they want to be collators and they've done a minimum requirements to be collators. It allows us to go from a candidate pool set to selected candidates, right? So basically, it's a filter scheme that will help us say who is going to be the person that is going to produce the next block. And the first filter is what takes you from a set of collator candidates to a set of selected candidates for a round. And a round is 1,800 blocks on Moonbeam. So this is basically the first filter, and this is done by amount of stake, right? So the top N collators that have the most tokens staked will go to the selected candidates for the next. So the selected candidates will have a chance to produce the blocks in the next 1,800 blocks, basically. And the second filter is basically amongst the selected candidates, it's going to help to select an eligible candidate to author a specific block. So basically using a random source, there's an entropy source, we're gonna grab a subset of selected candidates, and for a specific block, n amount of collators are going to be able to produce that block. Currently on Moonbeam, there's only one, meaning that if that candidate, that collator that was selected to produce block XYZ is not available for whatever reason, the network will have a micro stall of one block basically. And basically the collator will miss an earning the reward that he was allowed to have because of that he was eligible to produce a block basically. So another part of the Moonbeam tokenomics is around the inflation, like I said before, and we have to secure the block production basically of the network. And so that's why I presented a little bit of staking. And so this part is to show you how the 5% inflation it is distributed, right? So we have collators, which are the block producers and the network maintainers, and they will get basically 1% out of the 5% inflation. So this is 20% of the inflation basically. They earn blocks. They earn rewards based on blocks produced. So out of this 1,800 blocks in a certain round, they're going to produce, let's say, 300 blocks, 200 blocks, and they will earn rewards based on those blocks. 2.5% go to delegators, which is basically they're gonna be selfish, and they're gonna try to select the most performing collators because they're actively looking for better rewards. And last but not least, 1.5% of the inflation is basically sent to the parachain bond reserve. So this helps secure future parachain leases. And this is basically because when you connect to Polkadot, you have to bond or lock some tokens for a lease to be able to connect. And so this is just an example that I brought here. This is the payout for a single collator that he received basically 112 glimmers for 1,800 blocks. He received 112 glimmers. So this means that he produced X amount of blocks. And you calculate these rewards basically by using this formula. So the reward that collator gets is going to be 0.2 or 20% of the amount due for those 1,800 blocks. And then 0.5, because this is 50% of the inflation, the delegators, 50% of the amount he also had for staking, right? And then delegators basically get 50% for the amount due for those 1,800 blocks times the stake they had, right? So if they have, for example, 20% of the collator stake, they'll earn a lot more rewards. So I have some staking resources, some information on how to stake, and more information you can find in these 3 websites. So basically, this tab is the one that the Moonbeam Foundation basically is sponsored for staking on the network. And then you have a couple of dashboards that helps you a little bit interacting with staking or getting more information around staking. So basically, this is the dApp. This is for sure in our testnet Moonbase Alpha, but you can see Moonriver and Moonbeam here. And you can see there's a lot of information around crowd loans, cross-chain assets. So this is part of the interoperability. This is not yet enabled on Moonbeam. And down here, you have the part of staking where you can, manage your delegations. And then you can, for example, delegate a collator or manage your active delegation down here. We also have some tutorials on the dashboard website. You have some tutorials on how to stake. A couple more interesting resources is the Web3 Go dashboard, where you can see all the different collators or block producers, and you can see some stats around them, right? So for example, some APRs, some minimum bonds, average blocks they produce, current blocks, and so on. So there's a lot of information to go through here. You have some of the Bitcoin Suisse collators. So there's a lot of information here that you can check out to start delegating. Last but not least, we have a similar one. This was created by a collator, actually, who is also part of the community. And you have here also some other stats similar to the other one, but a different interface, basically. So yeah, I think with that, I basically finished my presentation. You can contact us through our website. We also you have a Telegram group. You also have Twitter handles and Discord. If you're a developer that wants to start developing, we're very active on Discord for that. Yeah, thanks, Ian, for inviting me, and I'm open to answer any questions that you have.
Super, Alberto. That's been a really great deep dive into Moonbeam. Super well done. I think that's covered a lot of topics. I'm sure the audience will also have some questions to throw in just now. But to get started, I'd like to throw 1 or 2 questions your way, which were already collected before, as mentioned. as we know, Polkadot has really grown a lot. The ecosystem has taken off in the last year and a half, 2 years. So a lot of projects building on the network, a lot of innovation happening. One project that already launched on Polkadot is Akala. And maybe you could give us 1 or 2 points, just compare and contrast how Moonbeam and Akala compare, if that is possible from your side.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. And that's not the first time I've heard that question. It's quite
Sure.
common, right? How do we compare to others, right? And I would say, I think, I don't want to speak on behalf of the Akala team. We respect them quite a bit. They're an amazing team. So I will say, like, what do we offer as a parachain, right? So basically, we are a platform for projects to build on top of, right? We provide basically a unique Ethereum compatibility features. We have the unified accounts thing that I mentioned before, meaning that we only use the Ethereum account system. While for example, Akala, they like I said, without speaking for them, in behalf of them, because I'm not 100% familiar of the technology stack that they offer, but they are a DeFi hub, right? So they want to be a DEX for the Polkadot ecosystem. Even though they're EVM compatible, we're just a platform for projects to build on top of, right? So I would say those are the two main differences, being that Akala has offerings, has tech offerings like their DEX, their stablecoin. But us, we don't have any offerings as a dApp, right? We offer a platform for developers to build on top of, right? So I would say that it's the main difference. And we have also pushed quite a bit on the Ethereum compatibility side. So we have developed certain technology stacks to make sure that we're as Ethereum compatible as possible, from actually feedback that we've gotten from projects, right? So we wanted to have like the graph support and Etherscan. They needed features that we develop ourselves, right? And so that is part of our push to be, Ethereum compatible 100%. So.
Okay. Makes sense. Just on that topic, I mean, with the focus on Ethereum compatibility, does that mean you from a developer side are really targeting current Ethereum developers, getting them in, teaching them, doing workshops or hackathons or things like that? What's going on in this side of things?
Yeah, you're 100% on point. So we are targeting Ethereum developers mostly. Well, I mean, I would say we are targeting two sort of developers. New developers that just want to start building, right? Because they have no clue about, what technology stack to use or anything, but also Ethereum developers, right? So a lot of our projects that have deployed on Moonbeam or Moonriver early on, they're the Ethereum developers that have forked either some other projects or have like built native projects from scratch, right? So that's why you see a lot of familiar names on Moonbeam, like the Graph. You've seen Chainlink, you've seen Uniswap V2 forks. You've also seen Moonwell, which is a Banky fork, which is based on Compound. You have seen Curve, SushiSwap. So a lot of the names are familiar in the Ethereum ecosystem. You see them here on Moonbeam. And right now, we have supported a lot of hackathons. We were in ETH Denver, which is one of the biggest Ethereum conferences in the world. We supported a hackathon there. We're actually launching quite soon with Dora Hacks, one of our first self-hosted hackathons, and it's mostly focused on two things: building on top of our EVM, or build features substrate with around substrate features such as interoperability, governance, staking, which are not native Ethereum things, right? So this is part of our technology stack where I presented, where we have the best of the EVM world, but also part of the substrate world, which is those features that are not native from the EVM. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense. Another question which we had already, just regarding the growth of Moonbeam, how scalable is it? How can you measure that? Are you looking to scale more? What is the outlook on that side of things?
Yeah, that's another good question that we've heard quite a bit, right? I mean, right now, the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems are very, very young, right? I mean, even though Polkadot has been around for a while, like I said before, Polkadot does not offer any end user features more than staking and governance, right? So this is actually the first time that Polkadot or Kusama have been stressed in terms of performance, right? And actually, fun story is that Moonriver was actually basically being limited by Kusama at a certain point. So to go back to scalability, there's actually quite a few things that we've actually thought about already in terms of the scalability, right? So if you're familiar with Moonbeam or Moonriver, we have basically 12 seconds block time, right now. We hope in the future to go down to 6-second block times, but right now we have 12 seconds block times. And out of those 12 seconds, we're executing everything around the EVM in 300 milliseconds. So that is quite less than 10%. It's not even it's quite less than 10%. It's not even 5%. So out of all those 12 seconds, we're actually executing all the transactions in less than 300 milliseconds. So that time we can easily expect that time to quadruple, right? So that means that we should be able to 4 times increase the transaction throughput in just with basically quite easily code implementations that will come from Parity actually. So we're helping Parity help us basically become more scalable. So, and besides that, there's another very interesting concept that we've played around in terms of parachains like Moonbeam being the relay chain of other parachains that will go below Moonbeam, right? So this is sort of like an L2 approach, let's say, but it is sort of like using the same tech stack. So it will be like a subchain, sidechain, however you want to call it, but it will be like this will actually make Moonbeam, as scalable as you want, because you can have X amount of subchains. So depending on the scalability that you want, I mean, for sure, like Ethereum, L2s, where L2s have different, basically, how do you say it, compromises, right? I mean, there's not the best of everything. So you can have different compromises where, okay, if you're a game, for example, which needs very, very fast transaction times, but you can basically get finality, you can expect finality to be in around 1 minute. You can go to a side chain where you have very, very fast block times, but the security guarantees are a little bit less on the Moonbeam chain as a whole, right? So I mean, there are different concepts that we've toyed around with, and we're actually looking into scalability right now, even though we're not being limited right now in Moonbeam in terms of transaction throughput, right? But since day one, we understand this is a very big concern because we expect a lot of more transactions to come in the near future, and so scalability is always a point of concern for sure.
Okay, let's jump over a little bit to the side. We have one question regarding oracles. Many DeFi protocols use Chainlink oracles, and Chainlink has been live on Moonbeam Alpha and Moonriver for some time. Why not on Moonbeam itself? Is there a timeline on that? What's going on there?
That's a great question, and I wish I could answer you oh, it's because of this. It's basically on their side of the court right now. So we launched Chainlink on Moonbase Alpha basically ourselves. So it was just to show once again how Ethereum compatible we were. We deployed the Chainlink tech stack and nodes and everything, and then the Chainlink team deployed on Moonbase Alpha, but also deployed on Moonriver, and that has been live for a while now. But like you said, Ian, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but a lot of projects depend on Chainlink. So basically, lending protocols depend on Chainlink, and I think it's because you're the best in the game, right, of Oracle games. So we expect hopefully to have a Chainlink deployment very, very soon. I would probably say hopefully by April, but I don't want to shoot myself on the foot. But it's basically on their side of the court. We hope to have this Chainlink deployment soon, and there's actually a lot of projects depending on a Chainlink deployment to go live on Moonbeam. But yeah, it's definitely a blocker for a lot of projects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just coming back to the entire collator topic, we had one question, and then we have one in the chat. Actually, great to see. The current setup with community collators. Why was this particularly chosen, and how does this play into certain quote unquote whales who might be operating in the space or coming into the protocol? How does this work?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so the idea is that the Moonbeam Foundation, which is basically the foundation that it is looking out of for the network and the rollout process, or through the decentralization process, it was really important for us and for the foundation to make sure that the block production mechanism is as decentralized as possible, right? So decentralization is a key feature on all of this, because there's no like single point of reliance, right? I mean, if you have a big whale controlling 50% of the network, I mean, it is really hard for them. They can be malicious, but it's not like 50% on Ethereum, right? Because remember that in the Polkadot grand scheme of things, the relay chain is the one that verifies the blocks, right? So let's say a collator can produce a malicious block saying I now have 100 million glimmer or whatever, but then when the relay chain and Polkadot's basically economic model, which basically supports the validators, right? Make sure that the validators are not being malicious. When the relay chain validators are going to check the block, are going to see that this block is malicious. The main problem about centralization on Moonbeam is terms of censorship, terms of block production. If they control quite a large part of the network, they can censor transactions, or they can just like don't produce a block because they don't want to, and so that will tamper network stability. So for us, the Moonbeam Foundation supported a program on Moonbase Alpha to make sure that the Moonbeam collators were as performant as possible, but also as decentralized as possible, to make sure that there's no single point of failure. So that is part of the collator community guidelines, where we actually, like, foundation basically set out to say, we won't support any more than 4 collators being run by a single entity. And I would say the main idea behind this is decentralization to prevent like single points of failure.
Okay, makes sense. Let's jump to the question that we just had in the chat. With regards to roll-ups on Moonbeam, would this be possible? And would it actually make sense? Or is it just actually breaking the benefits of being part of the entire interoperable Polkadot blockchain ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And so basically, for a scalability solution, you can do rollups, right? I mean, that's basically, you can do it on Moonbeam because, like I said, we're fully Ethereum compatible. So any rollup solution, I mean, we'll probably have to check from a text perspective if our EVM and Web3 implementation supports rollup, but it should be doable for scalability purposes. And I don't think that really breaks benefits with being part of the Polkadot ecosystem. So I would say that one thing is being part of the Polkadot ecosystem, and the other thing is scalability from Moonbeam's perspective, right? Like I said before, we've toyed around with the ideas of having like rollups and L2 solutions for specific purposes within the Moonbeam ecosystem. But the thing is now that if you want to interoperate, right, we still not sure how that it's going to work for interoperability purposes, right? So if you're an application that are looking for performance, for example, you might jump into this L2 solution, being a roll-up, a subchain, or whatever. But you might be you might have certain compromises that you have to do because you won't be on the main Moonbeam parachain, right? We're still exploring quite a bit of these ideas, so we're still doing a lot of research, and we're not sure how it's going to play it out. But it's definitely something that is interesting from the terms of scalability, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Another great question in the chat just now: how can Polkadot validators understand EVM transactions and actually validate them? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. And the thing is that Polkadot validators don't really validate transactions. I mean, they validate the state transition, right? The state transition is that in block N, you had, I don't know, Alberto had a certain amount of tokens and Ian had a certain amount of tokens, right? And then let's say I send you 10 tokens, Ian, and then the next state transition is that you had a certain amount plus 10 and I had a certain amount minus 10. So basically validators, what they check is the state transition from one block to the next one. And basically, if you think about it, EVM transactions are just state transitions that are done through the EVM, right? So using the Ethereum technology, basically, or the EVM technology to perform a state transition, right? So if a state transition is a swap in a DEX, that is going to change some storage elements. And basically, the validators are going to check that those storage changes, let's say, are valid, right? And that's it. So basically, the Polkadot validators check what it's called proof of validities, or state transition changes. But the EVM is just like an added layer of how you can do a state transition, basically.
Okay. And we're just getting close to the end of our session today, but I have one more question, or kind of combined question, from people who submitted questions before. Looking forward, Moonbeam is growing, adoption is happening, adoption on Polkadot, adoption on Moonbeam, but there are other networks that are also growing quite a bit. For instance, Solana, Ethereum continues to grow quite a bit. And this question about really being careful when it comes to being risk averse with the test nets and so on and so forth, and then mainnet development. Do you think this is actually hindering Polkadot or the Moonbeam network? Are others going to take off and grow faster? Or how is Moonbeam actually planning to grow and expand in the near future?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it's a very hard line to draw, right? I mean, how fast you move, but how stable you want to be, right? So we've seen networks like you mentioned, Solana had a lot of issues, with network stability and so on. And so there's always this question of like, where do you draw the line, right? So we have a lot of internal networks, right? I mean, you only know 3, right? You only know Moonbase Alpha, Moonriver, and Moonbeam, but we have, I would say, probably around 10 internal networks or something to test stuff around, right? So if you think that setup actually slows us down, you have to check like how fast we've moved with Moonriver and with Moonbeam. It has been crazy. We have had like numerous runtime upgrades on Moonriver, numerous client upgrades on Moonriver, and that all like will translate to Moonbeam at a slower pace because Moonbeam is the more like stable network where like Moonriver is running the state of the art, let's say, on production on mainnet, but then Moonbeam is going to run battle tested code, right? So that's why you saw, for example, EIP 1559 coming to Moonriver first, and then Moonbeam. Yeah, definitely it slows us down a bit, and I'm air quoting because, like I said before, is that really slow? I mean, it has been crazy the amount of upgrades and features that we brought to the network just 2 months after launching, right? And that's gonna be, it's gonna keep happening. I think this year is gonna be the year of interoperability. So we're pushing really hard around interoperability. But I also think that this approach allows us to like test things and make sure that only things that have battle tested end up on Moonbeam. So it's a very, very hard line to draw, but I think we're doing a really good job of making sure that the network is stable as we bring a lot of features to it. So
okay. With that, Alberto, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for the deep dive and answering all the tough questions. You've done a great job.
Thank you for the invitation.
Super. And also thanks to the team behind you, because I know they did some work to help prepare you for the tough questions today. And we very much look forward to seeing your development and all the things going on. We at Bitcoin Suisse, I think, also are helping to support the network with our offering for staking, and love to keep in touch with you and the team. So that's great. And look forward to many more things coming from your side very soon. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much again for the invitation, and always happy to participate in any other presentation you need me to. So thanks a lot.
Definitely.